This is my husband's story, but he gave me permission to share it with you. For the sake of this video, we'll call him Jerry. Jerry is one of those alpha males. From the time he could walk and talk, he was playing and watching sports, wrestling and hanging out with the guys. He was never one to show much emotion, including fear, let alone talk about something scaring him. But even now, 10 years later, he will tell you that this was the most terrifying experience of his life, for many reasons. When he was 15, he was rushed to the emergency room when his appendix began to rupture. His mom said he barely complained leading up to it, so all she knew was that he had a little stomachache. Jerry says he didn't want anyone to know how much pain he was in, because he believed giving in to pain was showing weakness. He had an emergency appendectomy about 20 minutes after he got to the hospital, and thankfully, obviously, he was okay. They kept him in the intensive care unit for the first 2 nights because he had come so close to death and there was mild infection still lingering. When he first woke from surgery, he remembers his mom pointing to the TV and asking the nurse, "Isn't that this hospital?" And the nurse responded with, "Yeah, it is. That paranormal show came here to film for their haunted hospital series," she said, rolling her eyes. A little while later, they woke him to change his dressing and get him in a fresh gown, and he requested something to eat. They brought him a few popsicles and some juice to start with, not knowing how the anesthesia would still be affecting him. When the nurse from before came into his room, he asked her, "Why was the paranormal investigator here in the hospital?" "No need to worry, dear. They just needed a hospital to film in for their new series," she said, obviously not wanting to scare a young boy. Later, he told his mom to go home and get some sleep and stop hovering over him, not wanting her to fuss over him all night. He was just going to watch wrestling and probably fall back asleep anyway. The anesthesia had mostly worn off, but he was still continuing to sleep, which was normal. The nurse said the antibiotics, pain medication, and anti-nausea meds all had a tendency to cause sleepiness. He was in a deep sleep when he woke up to feeling like someone had touched his leg. When he opened his eyes, no one was there, not even a nurse. Grabbing his water to take a sip, the cup moved a few inches on its own. He thought he was just seeing things because of the medications. Grabbed the cup, took a few sips, and laid back down. It took him a while to fall back asleep this time, but eventually he did. A short while later, his night nurse came in to check his vitals and give him medicine. And as he was just about all the way back asleep, he heard someone talking, but he couldn't make out what they were saying. When he glanced up, he froze in fear. There was a man sitting in the folding chair next to his bed, staring at him. The man was wearing a hospital gown, and Jerry couldn't make out what he was saying, but it sounded like he was talking about a heart transplant or something. Jerry said, "Who are you? Do you need help finding your room?" And the man looked at him and said, "This is my room." But he got up, walked towards the door, and just vanished before ever reaching the doorway. Jerry grabbed his phone and started searching the hospital name and the word haunted. When he did, he found numerous stories, including the investigative report from the paranormal team that was here in the hospital. Hospitals are, of course, the site of many deaths, but this wing of the hospital was said to be haunted by the spirit of a 40-year-old man who collapsed at his construction job. He was so young that at first they thought he just had heat stroke and needed some fluids and rest. But when he suddenly coded the first time about a half an hour after being brought to the hospital, they stabilized him and ran some tests. His heart was defective and he would need to be added to the transplant list. They assured his wife that he was the perfect candidate for a transplant because he was young, otherwise healthy, and didn't have any dependency issues. But only 3 hours later, he coded again, and they were unable to revive him this time. He left behind a wife and a set of 5-year-old twins. Since then, many people, including patients, staff and paranormal investigators have seen the man hovering around the bed of that room and roaming the hallways, as well as heard noises and had items move or go completely missing. Since then, Jerry has believed in the paranormal and will willingly admit that this was the scariest night of his young life. Thank you so much to Jerry and his wife for sharing today's story. I would have probably hit the call button and told the nurse I was hallucinating. If you have a paranormal story to share for an upcoming video, drop it in the comments or email it to the address in the description below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Let's get out of this YouTube dungeon together. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.